Hello and welcome to the Business Side of Music podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Fleschner. Today's guest is Dan Rogers, Senior Vice President and Executive Producer of the Grand Ole Opry. Starting as an intern in 1998, Dan has spent over 2 decades shaping one of country music's most iconic institutions. Under his leadership, the Opry has seen record-breaking artist debuts and global reach, even during the challenges of the pandemic. As the Opry celebrates its 100th year, Dan continues to lead with a deep respect for tradition and clear vision for the future. Dan, welcome to the Business Side of Music podcast.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for your interest in the world-famous Grand Ole Opry.
I think everybody's interested in that.
Indeed. Hope so.
Well, I've got a couple of questions, and we're just going to dive right in.
Let's go.
All right. As executive producer, what are the most important business decisions you make in shaping the Opry's programming?
The most important business decisions I think we make on behalf of the Opry are all about the Opry itself. I mean, we make business decisions all the time, of course, but I think the most important things we do that affect the business of the Opry are the decisions we make about this show, making sure that the artists who play the show have a great experience and want to come back again and again and again, and that fans from around the world want to tune in again and again, be it to the radio broadcast or the stream or the video stream we do Opry Live on Saturday nights. If we're getting the show right night after night and we're being strategic about where the show is and that it's the best it can be and that we're celebrating the past while looking toward the future and being strategic about what we want the Opry to be in 5 and 10 years and that we want it to be around for another 100 years. I think those decisions lend themselves to a really great business model as well.
When you spoke about, balancing the tradition versus what you want to do in the future, and that actually leads right into my next question, which is how do you balance tradition with innovation and managing a legacy like the Opry?
The Opry, it's not easy, but in some ways it takes care of itself. Like the Opry, when you think back to 1925 and you look at some of the photos in this very room, it's a whole different world, but it's also, there are a lot of similarities as well. I've said 2 or 3 times in the past 6 months or so, I really think that if Uncle Jimmy Thompson, who sat down with a fiddle and really played for the first time on what would become the Grand Ole Opry, I think if he was a part of an Opry show today, I think he would be completely overwhelmed.
Right.
But I think you could, I think he would recognize elements as well. I mean, who would think we're on the same radio station that we were with that first broadcast? That's unheard of. We still have a fiddle tune that opens a Saturday night show just like he did. And then, of course, after we might talk with him about how similar things are, it would also be a real great time to be able to say, and guess what? People are listening to this broadcast tonight in Germany and Russia and Australia. We were able to do a show that that millions of people watched on a Saturday night during a pandemic, and we're celebrating all these different styles of country music in a single show. It's just, it's who we are, and that will never change. That the Opry celebrates the past, present, and future of country music in every single show. Anytime I'm looking at our plans for a show, I'm like, oh, there it is. Like, this is a well-rounded show with something for every age group of fan,
Right.
which you just don't hardly see anywhere else.
Absolutely. Well, and I think you guys have done an incredible job of keeping the heartbeat of the Grand Ole Opry, and that is kind of that family atmosphere and celebrating all different types of country music.
Some of the great, it's funny to me, like what I consider success metrics. Because there, of course, are people coming to the show. How are our ratings? Are people watching the show? How many countries tuned in last Saturday night? But then it's also, wow, did you see all these different people in the family room that weren't on the show?
Right.
That came because they wanted to see what was happening, or to hang out with whoever, or to be here for one of their friends' Opry debuts.
Right.
You know, there was a specific night probably 6 months ago that I just looked around, and around every corner was somebody else who just wanted to be at the show, and that felt like it's not the only metric of success by any means, but it was one that I thought, okay, something really, really, really great is happening
Right.
here, and it's not just that particular.
Yeah, that so many people would want to continue to be a part of this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I got to experience the Opry Next class this year, and what that is all about, and so I wanted to ask some questions about that. How does the Opry play a role in breaking new artists or supporting artist development with programs like that?
So that program is all about the Opry wanting to. I mean, the Opry has always extended its hand to new artists and said, "Come play the show, and let us. It's a two-way street. We'd love for you to be here and come play the show, but we want to be a part of your success as well." I remember telling Blake Shelton that when he was a new artist, he may have played the show a couple of times by this point, and I can't remember exactly what happened, but someone must have canceled, or we must have had a slot open, because within 24 hours notice or less, he came and played, and he was saying, "Oh, it's great to be here." And I said, well, it's also a part of what we want to be here for you too. We
Right.
want to help your career, and the Next Stage program really just gives kind of lays it all out there in terms of what we've always, or for many years, wanted to do, and that's be a solid part of young artists' careers.
Right.
And saying, we think you're doing something really important here. We want to be a part of it. We'd love for you to come see us in this year of development for you, and for us to be a part of that. And it's been really rewarding to see those artists connect with each other further, and folks who are here connect with them.
That kind of leads into the next question. You're making this really easy on me, so
Good.
I appreciate that.
I don't always make life easy for people, nor do they always make life easy for me, but that's okay.
That's part of being in the music industry, is it not?
Something like that.
So my next question was kind of a part of that. It said, can you speak to the importance of the Opry in an artist's career, both symbolically and professionally?
I can say we want it to be important to artists. We sit in this room and talk about what we can do to be a bigger part of artists' careers and their lives, and it's certainly twofold. There's one part that is, what can the Opry do that furthers an artist's career? Can we do something that, do we have a special event on the night of your album launch where we're selling that album to all the people who are here, but then we're also talking about the album in the days before you appear, and we're doing social media posts, and you're on Opry Live so that you are seen by those people in the 75 countries we were talking about and heard around the world. But then there's also the personal aspect of it, which is, how can we be a part of that artist's greater community?
Right.
What can we do to make them want to be here on that night I was talking about, and just want to be here to experience things, such that if you are a huge Barbara Mandrell fan, how can we maybe at the Opry connect you somehow with her?
Right.
If we knew you grew up on Ronnie Millsap's music, how can we make sure that when he was here about a month ago, you get that opportunity, which may be your only opportunity in life,
right,
to connect with him? And, how can we connect you with folks even on a greater level that you may know, and you go out and do a collaboration on the Opry stage, etc., such that it really becomes this place that feels like home to you.
It's community.
Yeah, it absolutely is. We've asked, and this is part of the community too, artists to sign in on our book, just a guest book. Everybody who plays the Opry in the 100th to just write a thought about the Opry, and hopefully lots of people end up feeling the way Jamie Johnson explained, which I'm no songwriter, so I can't. The only way I could really convey it is to read it word for word. Right. But he basically wrote a letter to the Opry within those pages saying he would have never dreamt, like listening to his radio as a kid, that he would be here and be a part of it and get to contribute and soak it all in, to take something from it but to give back to.
Right, absolutely. I think that's how every artist that's a part of this gets to feel.
I hope so. It's really, as I say, we sit and think about how do we do better? How do we create those instances to make people feel welcome and to engage with them and for them to engage with each other.
So how do you decide which artists are invited to become members and what goes into those conversations?
It's really, at the end of the day, all about, and this is said often on induction nights as we're leading up to an artist becoming a member. It's about the community here and the relationships here. It's about an artist's relationship with other Opry members, with fans through the various appearances on stage, the relationship with staff and everybody that is a part of this Opry community, and most importantly, it's about the relationship an artist has with this show itself. And that can vary so much. It can be, someone like Charlie McCoy, who was in his 80s when he was invited to become an Opry member, but he's probably played on 50, I'm guessing, Opry members' records through the years. Maybe even more than that. Or Don Schlitz, who's written for probably 50 Opry members through the years.
At least.
But then to folks who have had all of that success, to younger artists who are much earlier in their careers but have already developed that closeness. From Lainey Wilson, who was one of the first people to just come in and play for us with her guitar and tell us about who she is and who she is as an artist, and what her career ambitions are, and tell us about that she could point to exactly where she was sitting the night she came at 9 years old with her parents, to other folks who are like Lainey that have long careers ahead of them.
And that's got to be great to listen to from these artists, to get to be a part of that full circle moment for these artists as one of the decision makers, to hear people like Lainey come in and tell you those stories and then give them the chance to be on the Opry stage.
Absolutely. And it's also it's equally rewarding to introduce people to the Opry as well.
Right.
Somebody who didn't grow up listening to the show, or, so many times we hear like, oh, my grandfather would listen to the Opry in his shop, and I always listened in. But then there are folks who didn't grow up with the Opry, and it's just as rewarding to say, well, here's who we are and what we do and why. Some people really do revere this place. Hopefully something's happening here that you'll want to be a part of as well. Right. And you can be a part of its future, and the Opry can be a part of your future.
We've spoken a lot about the artists and how they come to play the Opry stage and things like that, but I have some questions for you specifically now.
I'm ready. I think.
Well, let's be more confident than that.
I'm ready.
So as your role, in your role as the executive producer, what are some of the behind-the-scenes elements of running the Opry that fans don't realize are critical to its success?
Oh, that's fun. Well, one, I will say and they may see this, but it's about so much more than those minutes that the show is live on the air. I think people who work in and around the Opry are thinking about its success all the time. Right. Like, it's hard not to, it's building those relationships we talked about, and it's watching what's happening in country music and in music, and just trying to make sure that the Opry is a big part of that. So I think probably the surprising part might be how just never ending it is. Right. I mean, there are a lot of people here who sometimes don't think about much more than just the Grand Ole Opry.
Right, yeah.
Some weeks more than others.
Right, absolutely. So this year marks the 100th anniversary of the Grand Ole Opry. What does that milestone mean to you personally and professionally?
Personally, more than anything, I'm just incredibly honored to get to be a part of this celebration. I'm thankful for all the people who came before us, both on stage and backstage. Mm-hmm. It's it truly is this great community back here who that supports each other in good times and bad. And over 100 years, you're going to have a lot of both. Right. So personally, I'm just, more than anything, I'm thankful and I'm honored. And I'm excited about hopefully leaving the Opry better than I found it. And I found it in a really, really great place. And I think that that's possible, not because of me, but because of great people who work here and great artists who want to make sure it's around for the next generation and the one after that.
What do you think has kept the Opry standing strong for a century while other institutions similar have kind of faded away?
The people. Yeah. Absolutely. And when I say that, it's the people on both ends of the radio, those tuned in, proverbial radio, now that you can listen so many different ways and be a part of the Opry so many different ways. Right. But the people tuned in, the people making the music, the people making sure that the music gets out there. Mm-hmm. And I think it's this incredibly rich spirit where some of the most successful artists in music history want to make sure that this show they love lives on. Yeah. That it that we all leave it in a better place than we found it, which can be tough, 100 years in, but also it just feels like really great things are happening as well, and we are the beneficiaries of technologies that weren't to be had in 1925 or even 2005 for that matter. Right. That truly people from around the world can now be told 1 minute, hey, this is about to happen, you can see it on your phone, and you can tune in and hear,
Right.
Garth Brooks take the stage, or maybe someone's dream coming true because they're gonna debut on the Opry or become an Opry member or whatever the case may be.
Right. I read in an interview that you did with Rolling Stone how you were talking about basically that you don't know how they did it with snail mail.
Oh my gosh.
And things like that. Can you even imagine having to put this show together?
Every once in a while, I'll stumble onto like a piece of correspondence that someone received, and I'm just truly think, how in the world could they put some of those shows together, like when you had to call every single person or write a letter or what have you, which truly makes our jobs more difficult, but also easier now. Like we're doing a series of Opry Honor shows, which are going to be so much fun to do. And I was thinking the other day, like how great it is that we're going to be able to honor artists from the Opry's past, but we're using all the technology of today to make it happen. So we can pull those videos of them in the 1960s and show them to everybody tuning in or sitting in the audience, and we can, ask Martina McBride what Loretta Lynn song she wants to do,
Right.
and, get an email response and know, okay, well, she's taken those 3. Now, we have these, and thankfully Loretta has a great catalog, has all these others for someone to choose from.
Well, with so many artists coming through, I imagine the backstage environment can be pretty entertaining. I've heard some stories, actually. Do you have a favorite funny or unexpected moment from behind the curtain?
Oh, gosh. There are so many. Just, and they're so great. Like, every night out here is so much fun. But some of my favorites are holiday weekends where it kind of does feel like the Opry feels even more like family than usual,
Right.
because you're used to spending the holidays with your family. Just Saturday night, Vince Gill came off stage and said something really funny, and like he had just been joking around all night on the side of the stage, and I said something like, "You were so funny tonight," and he, he's the king of self-deprecation, so he was like, "Oh, as opposed to every other night when I'm out here and not funny at all," sort of thing. So it's just the best to walk down the halls and hear those jam sessions. It's in terms of like things that you wouldn't expect. Every once in a while, 2 artists meet each other for the first time, and that's always so, like, you just feel such, like, what am I even doing here? It should be about these 2 people, but you realize, oh, I know both of them, but they don't know each other.
Right, yeah.
And so that's always interesting and a little bewildering to be like, Garth Brooks, this is whoever, you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? So
exactly.
there are, like, you can't put 10 artists a night and their band members and some of their fans and friends and family all in a small backstage area and not expect really crazy things to ensue.
Absolutely.
From time to time.
Absolutely, yeah.
But it's great. It's just I would many nights, even if I'm not on the list to be here, I'll be here because I absolutely want to be. You don't want to miss something.
Right, exactly. Yeah. I feel like you'd miss out if you did.
Exactly. I will say just specifically being here for Ringo Starr's Opry debut and just being able to talk to him briefly backstage and say how much we appreciated him being here, and then to really feel the love back from him that he was honored to be here himself was pretty darn humbling for sure.
I can imagine.
Yeah, it was.
That'd be pretty incredible. Well, I have one final question for you, and that is, if you could go back and give your younger self or the next generation of music industry professionals one piece of advice, what would it be?
I regret, this is really advice I really wish that I had given myself now 27 years ago. Keep a journal. One, because you'll be surprised. For me, it like writing things down helps me remember them, and it helps me put things in perspective. But also, you'll be surprised how many people are interested in those experiences from day to day, and just how much you realize how much you change personally and develop professionally, and also how things remain constant too. My weaknesses in 1998 are almost certainly my weaknesses today, and the things that just really interested me back then still I find fascinating today. So I'd say, even if it's a couple of minutes a day, to just write down what you did that day, how you feel about it, what your hopes and dreams are.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and with a job like this and in the music industry in general, you're moving so quickly all the time that sometimes it's just something for yourself to look back on and remember kind of where you were and what you were doing.
Yeah.
So.
And sometimes when I go back and read some of the things I've written, I laugh out loud at because they're funny and I had forgotten. And then sometimes I laugh out loud at, like, oh, did you really think, like, you could solve that? Like, nice try.
Right, exactly. Well, I appreciate your time today. Thank you so much for being on our podcast and for sharing all of your wisdom.
Thank you, and thanks to everybody for 100 years of great Grand Ole Opry.
Yeah, here's to 100 more.
Here's to 100 more.